When you think about this is ground zero for Pachamamas, women's ordination, married priest, indigenous Amazonian liturgy, Pope Leo XIV says, within this perennial doctrine, no less evident is the right and duty to care for the home that God the Father has entrusted to us as diligent stewards. I actually agree with Pope Leo on the idea that we need, as Catholics, as Christians, we need to push preserving our home, and especially with our food. But he says the home that God has entrusted to us as diligent stewards, so that no one irresponsibly destroys the natural goods that speak of the goodness and beauty of the Creator, nor much less subjects oneself to them as a slave or worshiper of nature, since things have been given to us in order to attain our end of praising God and thus obtaining the salvation of our souls. And in particular, he's telling the bishops of the Amazonian region that we cannot subject ourselves or be slaves of nature. And he even says, or be a worshiper of nature. You, as a Catholic, as bishops, as clergy, you cannot promote the worship of Mother Nature. The first chapter of St. Paul's epistle to the Romans, he talks about how the reason mankind was corrupted into idolatry is they began not to worship the Creator, but they began to worship creation. And St. Paul says they started making gods in the shape of animals and creeping things and birds and other humans. They start worshiping creation. All of those gods, all of those idols are stand-ins for forces of nature, like Zeus and Thor. So all of these gods are worshiping some aspect of creation. And St. Paul says, when you do that, you corrupt your mind. And God, it says in Romans chapter 1, he begins to hand you over to your devices, to your lusts. When you're worshiping creation and not the Creator, you start to get inverted and perverted. And Paul says the end of that perversion is, he says explicitly, women laying with women and men burning in lust for other men. Ultimately, the end game of paganism and of worshiping idols and creation leads to the corruption of the sexual appetites, ending in sodomy. Romans chapter 1, it's a banger. If y'all haven't read Romans chapter 1, go read Romans chapter 1. And so worshiping creation is a sin, and worshiping creation leads us to base and vile lusts and desires. And that's why worshiping any idol or worshiping Mother Earth or Mother Nature or Mother Creation, all of that is pagan. All pagan religions have a Mother Earth, Mother Nature goddess.